Right, welcome everyone to Shakespeare with Sarah. Today I am here with Vlada and we are working together on Helena's How Happy Some or Rather Some Can Be, and she's been very generous in letting me share this session with all of you guys so you can learn from seeing things in process, because I do find that people do often find the same things challenging. And I was just saying to Vlada that actually when I made the video before a long time ago, breaking down all the meanings and everything, that was before I did a self-tape of it. And when I did the self-tape, I realized, oh, actually it's quite tricky, because it's not a particularly funny monologue. I think people often think it's a comic monologue, but I don't really think it's a comic monologue. I think it's fairly serious. And it's also tricky because it's at the beginning of the play. And I think monologues that are at the beginning of a play tend to be a lot of sort of exposition. They're kind of trying to explain everything to the audience about what's happening. And so as actors, there's not always as much going on emotionally as we might like. And I think sometimes we put a lot of emotion into this monologue that maybe doesn't need to be there, or maybe we force it to be things that it's not. And it's hard because it's not a flashy monologue. It's a sort of fairly understated monologue. So introducing Vlada, do you want to tell us what you're working towards? So what's this monologue for? Auditions or competitions and things, and why did you pick it?
I chose this monologue because I've read the play and I instantly fell in love with it. I just found it really magical in all the ways. I just instantly knew that if I had to do a monologue, a classical monologue, it will be from this play. And also when I was younger, when I believe in 4th or 5th grade, I had the best friend and we fell in love with the same boy. So it's kind of like a similar situation. Yeah.
I love that so much. That's awesome. Oh my God. Okay. And then what have you found challenging about it? Is there anything in particular that you've been like, this is hard?
It was quite challenging to switch between the thoughts because like she has 3 parts of the monologue and I feel like there should be a pause and like you need to think it through, and it's also like you have to follow the thought, so like one thought flows from the other thought, if you get the meaning.
Yeah, I
Get what I
absolutely do.
mean.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think that's really tricky with this monologue because I think Helena thinks really fast. I think she jumps from one thought to another. And I think as actors, we have to really understand the connection between one thought and another. It's sort of bananas. It's hard. It's a lot of prep work. Well, that's really good lead-in, actually. So why don't we go through the monologue line by line, and you can tell me in your own words what she's saying, and then maybe we can talk through some of the thought connections there as well. So you can kind of talk me through what how you see her thought progressions working.
Yeah, do I read the monologue first?
Yeah, let's do a reading. Yeah, let's do a reading of it first. Yeah, just have an easy read through first.
How happy some or other some can be. Through Athens I'm thought as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know her all, but he do know. And as he owes doting a Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. Things base and vile, folding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love sees not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste, wings and no eyes, figure and heady haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled. As waggish boys engame themselves for swear, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For Demetrius looked in Hermia's eyes, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. But as this hailsome he from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight, Then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her, and for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But here I need I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Yay! That's beautiful. That's awesome. So I think there's a couple of things that we can probably tweak a little bit with your monologue, but it's really good. I think that there might be a couple of times you might want to play with some different vocal inflections. There's a couple of times at the ends of lines that you're up inflecting. Do you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about? Yeah, cool. That's cool. And it's not bad, but I suspect you're going to have a bit more power if you down inflect at the end of lines mostly, rather than up inflect, which is a really little thing, but I actually think people connect to it's more powerful, but also there's something about up inflecting at the ends of some lines. If it's the end of a sentence, I would down inflect. So if you've got a full stop or exclamation mark or anything, if in doubt, down inflection I think is going to be safer because it has more gravitas. I reckon the main thing, because I know you had a couple of pauses in there, and I think they're valid, but I think they're a bit long, a little bit. I think it needs to flow a little bit more. So I reckon that's probably the challenge here, is to get this to flow as much as possible. But for you to still feel connected to it without having that big pause. So where do you think, like if you could pick one place to pause, where would you want to have it? Like a decent pause?
A decent pause after, before for Demetrius looked in Hermia's eyes.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be a pause.
Yeah. And so what warrants the pause in your mind? Like what really gets you there that you feel like you need to have time to process?
I think because she might have a lot of feeling, because like she said already a lot of stuff, and she might want to process those feelings and like think of what she want. Like, does she want to continue this thought, or like she want to like because she was speaking in general of love and people, and now like for Demetrius like in Hermia's eye, it's more about her situation. That's why.
And so for you, what sort of thoughts are you going through in that pause? What are you thinking through as a character?
Well, I would process what I have said. Helena have said. And I would think of like my feelings when I realized that Demetrius is not mine anymore. And like he's basically like, he looks in Hermia and he adores her now. And like, where do I start this? Like the speech about myself, where do I start?
And what makes you decide to speak? If you're sort of like not sure if you want to go down that path, what makes you think, yes, I need to say this out loud?
I think because like it's in the beginning of the play, she says that to give the audience the understanding of what happened, because like there she says that she actually had something going on with Demetrius, and then like out of the blue, like something happened, something flicked in his head, and then he just basically fell in love with Hermia.
Yeah. And I think the only thing I would dig a bit further here, because I think that's a good answer as a writer. You know, that's a writer's answer, whether like the writer needs that, but you as a character, like why does Helena need to say it? Because she could change her mind. Like she started, she felt like she wanted to tell the audience about what was going on, but you just told me that she's processing it and she's not sure whether she wants to actually say it or not. So as a character, why would she decide, yes, I'm going to say this? What's the payoff, or what does she want to get out of saying it?
You know, actually, like it's my answer right now will not be mostly about Helena, but like about people in general. When we say something out loud, we get this relief. So like we get this weight off our shoulders. And maybe that's why she's saying that. And also like when we are saying or telling our problem out loud to somebody or like to ourselves, we can follow the thought, like where does it get us? And then because after this thing she says like she comes to a conclusion that she will tell Demetrius of their runaway thing. And then like this is like the end of her train of thought, if you get the idea.
I think that's good. I think you can potentially maybe make more of that moment. If that's going to be your pause moment, I reckon you make something of that, and that's your moment where the character's going through something. And I really like what you said about this is a weight off her shoulders. So in that moment, I think she's processing a lot then. And maybe there's a part of her that's saying, no, just leave it, just shut up, just don't worry about it. They're not going to understand. But the other part of her, she's hurting so much that she's just like, but I've got to get this out. And I don't have any friends to talk to anymore because I can't tell Hermia this. She's not, she won't understand. She's got her own thing going on. The other thing then is to look at maybe reducing the other pauses. There's sort of a big thought change. There's a big thing happening when she decides to go and tell Hermia. I will go tell him of Hermia's flight. So you could potentially have a little bit of a pause there as well. But I generally think that more than one kind of big pause ends up feeling very broken up, and it starts to feel a bit indulgent for people that are watching. They start to think like, okay, move it along. So you will need to have a big shift, a big decision that happens very quickly going into I will go tell him. So that's going to be your challenge there, is to have a big shift without taking a pause. Have you got any thoughts on that, on any of those things, or objections?
No. Actually, what you're saying just makes sense, because like she's really rapid and she's like, she just says whatever she whatever she thinks. Like, I think she's like the kind of the character that says something first and then she thinks of what she's saying.
Yes, I think you're so right. And actually, I kind of relate to her a bit. Like I've talked to have a lot of friends like this, where it's like we think out loud, like we think as we speak. So when we're saying things, it's like we're only figuring out what we're actually thinking by speaking it aloud. I think she's that kind of person. So it's like it comes out of her mouth before she's even realized that it's happened. But it's still hard to play as an actor though, because it's literally hard to like get your brain to work that fast and make sure that you're actually feeling everything properly and not just like going through the motions, I guess. So I think it's a challenge. Would you like to have another reading of it? Can we do a reading?
Yeah, sure.
So you've got a couple of challenges there. So one of them is if you're reading along, if you see full stop or exclamation point, end of sentence, down inflect. And then your big pause moment, let's like give that a fair bit of a moment, and then no other pauses.
Okay. And can I still be reading from? Okay.
Yeah, just use your script. It's fine.
How happy some or other some can be. Sorry, no, there was no shift.
That's oh my god! No, you caught yourself. Like you knew what I meant. That's good.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, because hearing that up inflection at the end, it almost sounds like a question to me. And that, I don't think you're intending it that way, but that's how we often read an up inflection. So that's why it's important to be like, no, the character's not asking a question.
It's tricky because like the beginning of the sentence, it sounds like the question, like how.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It is such a different thing. Like you're absolutely right. In modern day phrasing, we would 100% up inflect. So interesting to think about that, but it just can't be in the olden phrasing, olden world. Um, okay, so I think you'd have to practice it. Like I think I would literally practice like, how ridiculous is that?
Mm-hmm.
How unfair is this? You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like a statement.
Yeah.
How rude was that person?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is still a
Well, yeah.
question, but it's like
Mhm.
it's a statement question. Oh my god. Yeah, anyway, good point. Good point. All right, I'll let you explore.
How happy some or other some can be. Through Athens, I'm thought as fair as she. Oh my god, that's so hard.
It's so hard. Literally, what I would recommend you do, literally use your hand, because this is what like voiceover artists would do, like in a booth to make themselves do the right pitch. Like literally do how happy some or other some can be. Through Athens, I am thought as fair as she. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
use your
Yeah,
actual
okay.
hands. Yeah.
How happy some or other some can be. Doesn't work.
It's amazing though. So start higher. How happy some or other some can be. Try and go down the stairs. See what happens.
Okay. How happy some or other some can be. Through Athens, I'm thought as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know all, but he do know. And as he is down in Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. Things base and vile, folding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Nor had love's mind of any judgment taste, wings, and no eyes figure in heady haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he's so oft beguiled. As waggish voice and game themselves forswear, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For Demetrius, like Nehemiah's eye, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. But as this hailsome he from Hermia fell, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Sorry, I know. I watched your recent video where you said like those teenagers would like say I would, and then
Yeah.
here I am doing that.
It's hard not to though, and I hear professionals do it, but it's not good practice. But people do it, so it's not, no one's going to kill you. But I think for auditions, it's good to try and eliminate that instinct, because I think that the thing with it is actually that what we're trying to do, we don't need to do. We do it because we think it sounds natural, and we are trying to show them that, like, look, I'm hesitating and I'm thinking, but we don't need to do that, because the acting is doing it for you. Like, you don't need to convince anyone that you're thinking things, because you were. So anyway, that's, all this, I think, but just sharing for people that are new.
I think that I did it right now because like you said, try to switch the thought like without the big pause, and I'm like, okay, that's a big pause already, and I have to say something, and then I'm realizing that I didn't actually think it through the end, and then I'm like, do I go back? Do I not?
I think that's good. I think that's good to realize, because in some ways that shows as well that they like maybe you need a really clear thought there, or an image. Like I actually do think for this monologue it's really useful to work with particular thoughts or images that come out. Like what specifically makes her think of that? Like what gives her that idea? Like, because I think as people it's unusual to just have like an idea out of the blue. Is she thinking about like, oh, showers of oaths? Maybe she's thinking about Lysander is, you know, proposing to Hermia or whatever, like not proposing. So maybe she's thinking of Lysander professing his love to Hermia in the woods, and maybe that's what comes to mind when she says showers of oaths, and then she's like, oh, I know, we can go to the woods and then he'll see that this is what's happening, like something like that. Because I think it's better to embed a thought or an image rather than just hoping that it will just strike you and hopefully naturally happen. Like that's hard.
Can I go back from like as waggish boys and give themselves persuaders to the beloved spurge everywhere?
Yeah, actually, even go and therefore is love said to be a child, I reckon. Go from the back.
Okay, you sure? And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled. As waggish boys in game themselves persuaded, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For Demetrius looked in Hermia's eye, he hailed them oaths that he was only mine. But as this hailsome he from Hermia fell, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight, then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But here on me night to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Cool. That's awesome. There's heaps of stuff going on there. That's great. I reckon that last section, I think you are getting into some vocal patterns in the just from I will go tell him. There's a couple of points in that last section where you're actually repeating your vocal pattern. I don't know if you can hear it. You sort of, there's a couple of lines that actually you're using the same pitch and you're repeating that pattern of pitch, which is normal, but I actually think we need to break the pattern because otherwise the audience sort of starts to switch off a bit. So I think it's very tricky to go onto that I will go tell him a fair Hermia's flight. I reckon probably you might want to split the difference and have a slight pause there. Just maybe like a mini one, maybe not as long as you're originally doing, and not as long as the other one, but just like a second to let yourself have the idea, because I think otherwise it's hard to jump in straight into it. And I think you really need to break up the pitch, particularly. So in terms of like when you get an idea, can you just say for me, like literally say out loud, I've just had the best idea, like however you would normally say that. Tell me you've just had the best idea.
I just had the best idea.
Yeah, cool. And can you do it again? And I want you to use different pitch.
Like a different pitch pattern.
Yeah, so like be like, I just had the best idea. I just had the best idea. Like, can you do like 3 different ways of doing it?
Yeah, sure. I just had the best idea. No, wait, that was unnatural.
Don't worry about whether it's natural though. Just do like, go crazy and don't let yourself think.
I just had the best idea. I just had the best idea. I just had the best idea.
Yeah, I think that last one's really good actually. So can you do that, those couple of lines for me? I will go tell him that bit up to tomorrow night, pursue her. Can you do that for me right now in that kind of energy where you're like, I just had the best idea energy?
I will go tell him of the Hermia's way.
Take a second, breathe, do a big breath before this, because it's like, oh my God, this is the best. Okay. I'm so smart.
I will go tell him of the Hermia's flight.
Okay, cool. I'm going to challenge you. Can you actually go off screen and I want you like run into shot and like yell at me, I will go tell him, like tell me that section.
Yeah, sure. I will go tell him of the Hermia's flight. Then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. By here in me, to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Okay, cool. So that's good. Those last two lines, you got back into that repeated vocal pattern. So we'll need to find a new one for that as well. I think with the line, actually what will change it is the word flight is more important than Hermia. So when you say fair Hermia's flight, it's actually flight is the emphasis, because you actually want to tell him about she's run away. You're not telling him it's Hermia, because he knows that that's the least important part of the explanation for him. Does that make sense? So if you do that energy, but talk about flight and really hit the flight. So actually, let's even just do some like gestures with it. So can you just do this to me? If you go like, I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Can you like go like this?
Okay, yes,
crazy hands?
Yeah. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. No, it's again the same pattern.
So try, what actually I think is throwing you off is that because you're going up for Hermia and down for flight. Can you reverse them? So if you go, fair Hermia's flight, and flight becomes like way more exciting.
Okay.
So you can literally like do this at me, go crazy and pitch like this and see if it helps you.
Yeah. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is I think it's not like if I have thanks, but it's like if I have thanks.
Yeah, I think the emphasis is on thanks. But I think what's happening is actually you're realizing it too late. I actually think this is another one where you actually need to realize earlier. So when you're saying, and for this intelligence, you actually have to think all the way through. So rather than kind of pausing and thinking about it and then saying it, can you actually show that she's thinking it through while she's speaking? So I think that's going to change your vocal pattern as well, because when someone's thinking, they speak kind of differently. Does that make sense? So you've got the kind of like, I've got an idea. Hang on, I'm just thinking it through.
Okay. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But here in me I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Okay.
It's this thing.
Because you are being inflecting as well. So I think you need to down inflect on the end of those two lines. I think what's probably good in terms of like homework for you going forward is to really make the ends of lines really important. And there are a lot of down inflections in this monologue because she's actually making a lot of statements. And sometimes that's hard to hear because it's weird to hear someone, end a sentence and then say something else in the sentence. That can be tricky, but she does it a lot. And particularly that end couplet needs to be like, the word pain needs to be more important, because what I'm hearing is that the word enrich is more important, because you're sort of saying here in mean I to enrich my pain, and pain kind of disappears. So maybe we'll better wind up soon, but let's do those last two lines. Can you actually do some gestures where you actually drive through to the end of the line? So if you do this, like here in my night to enrich my pain, like drive through it in whatever kind of pattern you want. Yeah.
But here in me I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Can you do that again? And then can you walk down the stairs again for those two lines?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see.
By here in me I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again. To have his sight thither and back again.
Yeah, I actually think it's more like that. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's actually what she's doing there is like bringing it back. So I think it's more of a down the stairs kind of pattern. Although you can play with it like that, I think those couple of lines, if you want to play with the pitching, it's fine. I think if I would recommend recording yourself and listen almost like it's music, and listen to the way your voice is moving. And if you can hear the same theme repeating, then challenge yourself to find a different one, because when we hear the same vocal patterns, it's like it signals to me as an audience that you actually don't really understand what you're saying. You're kind of just parroting it. It sounds like you're phoning it in, I guess. So actually, just before we finish, what's your take on the last two lines? What does it mean to you when she's saying, I'm going to enrich my pain? How would you paraphrase that in your own words?
It's like when you put salt on your wound, so like it hurts more. And she's basically saying, like, I don't want to put salt on my wound. I want to have like his side. So like he will see that Hermia is already with Lysander and like they're in love, and like, you have no chances, bro. And like, come back to me. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the way that I think about the enrich my pain, though, I guess in terms of salt in the wound, I think of her saying, well, actually, there's already salt in the wound. And if I've already got salt in the wound, I'm going to make the most of it. Like, I'm already hurting, so I may as well just risk everything I've got and see if I can get something out of it by taking this risk and the cost, I guess, the dear expense that she's talking about. She's like, well, if I'm already hurting and I'm going to hurt more, I may as well get something out of it. I'm going all in. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, I would play with the picture that those last couple of ones. And I think, because I think it's not sounding convinced yet. And I think that's probably, I think you do need a down inflect on the last line at least, even if you don't on pain, that's okay. But back again, I think it does need a down inflection, because it is kind of like, I've decided. It's like putting it's closing it, it's putting a stamp on it. Yeah, let's read it through one last time. Did you have any questions before we do a last reading?
No, I don't have any questions. I just like, it's a lot of food for my mind.
Yeah,
like a lot to think through.
It's a lot to think through, so don't worry about getting it all in place. Just see what you can. Just play. And in fact, I would say, even if you've got a little bit of space, take a step back, give yourself a little bit of room to move. You can have your script if you want it, it's up to you, and play a little bit with gesture. Or actually, I want to challenge you, don't look at me. I want you to pick two different points to look at, one to your left and one to your right. And when you change, you can only look at those 2 points. I don't want you to look anywhere else. You can choose.
So like, choose 2 points and I only look at those 2 points.
Yeah. So if you want to, you can deliver the whole monologue to 1 point. But if you feel like you want to change and talk to somebody else, imagine that there's another person over the other side, but you can only talk to 2 people. You can't talk to everybody.
Yeah. Also, I have one question. Like, she basically, like, this is her thoughts out loud, and there's no like a person she's actually talking to, so she's like talking to herself. But like, when characters are talking to themselves, they're mostly, well, in most cases, they're talking to the audience, right?
Yeah. So this is something that you can explore as well, in terms of, homework going forward. So the usual tradition with a soliloquy is that you're talking to the audience. And I like to explore, whenever I've got a soliloquy, whenever I'm talking to the audience, explore whether it works best just to talk to 1 point or maybe multiple points. If I do multiple points, I probably would normally do 3. I'm just asking you to do 2 now because it's a bit simpler for a practice run, I would pick 3 points and I think very specifically about who I'm talking to in terms of like an audience member. It might be like, okay, I'm talking to like a young mum right now that's going to understand what it's like to be, when you're talking about a boy love, because she'll understand what it's like to have a little kid or whatever. And I imagine like different types of people that I'm talking to. And there might be times that she's kind of talking to herself, so she might look up sometimes to reflect on. If she's talking to herself, she'd look up. But this is why I definitely recommend people recording themselves, because if you have more than 3 points, it gets really like, you can't track what the person is thinking. So that's really, really important. Are you doing it is your audition in person or are you taping?
No, I will have to self-tape.
Yeah, it's really tricky. Yeah, even for self-taping, even though it would be technically like the camera is the audience, don't look at the camera. It's just not. Generally, they don't.
Well, some universities, they say that like, please direct your speech to the camera.
Oh.
And, like, don't look other ways. So it's kind of tricky. I think why they say that, because like some people, they will just like go like this and you can't see the eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably why. That's so interesting. Yeah, okay, well that's good. Well, you know then. So I found when I was taping, 1 point was enough, because it just felt like it was bothersome to do 2. But if you practice it enough, you might be able to do 2 with a tape with taping, because then you can cross camera with your sight. So something to play with.
Yeah, same with me. Also, like, I do 1 point and then maybe when I'm thinking, I like, my eyes will run around and then I return to the same
thing.
thing.
That's kind of why I'm getting you to do it, actually, because I think it's okay to have your eyes move around, but I think when you're challenged to like really look at 1 point or 2 points and nowhere else, you'll really notice when you're doing it. And I think often when we're doing it is because we're searching for a thought or we're searching for a line or something. And that's not really a good practice. We have to be able to think things through and feel things while still having a clear eye line. Otherwise it gets really murky. So it's practicing something tricky. All right, let's do it. Just whatever comes up, just enjoy it and see how you go.
Happy some or other some can be. Through islands I'm not as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know all, but he do know. And as he owes down your Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. Things base and vile, folding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love sees not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is when Cupid painted blind. Nor had love's mind of any judgment taste, wings and no eyes, vigor and heady haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled. As waggish boys in game themselves for swear, so their boy love is perjured everywhere. But ere Demetrius looked in Hermia's eye, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. But as this hailsome he from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of Hermia's plight. Then to the woods will he tomorrow night pursue her, and for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But here in mean I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again. And back again.
Yay! Awesome. Gosh, it's really beautiful. You have a really lovely, it's very connected. It's very clear. I think you're doing so well with the character and your understanding of it. And the delivery is really lovely. So this is so good. And I think I think I'd give you like a couple of things to practice is just keep practicing breaking your vocal patterns, I think, because it's very easy to get into the same vocal patterns. Yeah, just challenge yourself to do like crazy vocal patterns, like run around the room and like sing it, or like do it all down there and then go up really high. Like go crazy with your vocal patterns to break the habits and make sure that you're actually connecting and thinking through eventually which pitch you want, rather than just doing one that you always done, I guess. And I think there's in the middle section with the boy love and in game themselves forswear and everything, a couple of lines there, they're a little bit rushed, so you can actually take a little bit more time with those lines. And I think what will help you is to really overemphasize the consonants for a lot of that middle section, because there's a lot of like if you go through it and just practice going, nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste, like make a meal of everything. I think that will train you out of running through it, because I think you've got to actually hit a few more words a bit stronger so we can follow what you're saying. And then the last section for me, that's where I feel like you're least connected to it. Does that feel true to you? The last section, it feels, all of it up until I will go tell him feels very, very honest and very true. And then when you get to that last section, it feels less truthful to me when I listen to you. Is that true of what you're experiencing?
Well, right now, yeah, because I think it's because I'm focused more of what you said to me. Like I'm trying to process what you said to me, and then what she tries to think at the same time. And
that's fine. It's a lot to process. Yeah, that's fine. I reckon I would really challenge you to try and move around with that last section, especially when you've got that idea. Practice, obviously you won't be able to tape moving around, but for your rehearsal, move around and do gestures, maybe like pretend to go up really close to the audience member that you're talking to and be like, oh my God, I've got the best idea. Practice that, because I actually think you need to connect a bit more to your breath and your body there, because she's actually quite excited. I think that'll really help you to find what does it feel like in my body when I have an idea, and let that that breath come and the movement come. So that might involve just running around the room and yelling at walls or something to get you out of that last bit. And that sort of applies, I think, throughout that last section, is like lot more movement, more body, more breath. Yeah.
I think what might help me is that I really have to find that idea to experience and like to remember everything that I have felt when I found this great idea.
Yeah, I think that's, you can give yourself if you need a second pause, give yourself a second pause. I think just don't do more than that, I think. Yeah, I think if you feel like you need it, then go for it. But then I think the practice will help. Like the more you practice it, the more it's just going to drop in by itself anyway. So I think I think you'll get there eventually. But it is true. Yeah, it's the body. Like it's all about the body, that last section. I think maybe even don't think about it. Maybe you need to drop the thought process there. Maybe it's just about like trust that your body will come up with the idea and let your body move, and don't worry about what she's thinking about there. Maybe that's too much.
Yeah, okay. I've heard you.
There's lots of different things. Yeah, like I'm not expecting you to like instantly take any of this on. This is all just ideas. So, Yeah. Did you have any questions or any comments that you want to throw in?
Yes, of course. I want to thank you. Like, this was extremely helpful and extremely great, and like I found it really, really helpful. Like, I knew that I kind of understood everything that she's saying, but then like when it gets to the like Shakespearean language, it also has like some different things that you have to keep in mind. For example, like this first line, how happy some others can be. Like, it's ridiculous for a modern person, so to say. So yeah, breaking up this monologue was like really helpful to fully understand the character, even though you might think that you understand it fully, you don't understand it fully. Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for sharing. I feel like that too, you know, even when I like, there's monologues that I know and I'll go back to them and be like, you didn't know that. You thought you knew it. And actually it means this, or like there's something else going on. There's so many things. Like, that's why I actually love doing this kind of thing, because it, like, the more that we talk, like I learned stuff from you too, from what you were saying. I'm like, oh, it's so true. It's really insightful, and you've done such a great job with it. So I hope you feel confident anyway, because I think it's really beautiful. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you for this opportunity. It was really helpful. I'm extremely grateful to you.
Oh, no worries. And good luck with it. Let me know how you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I will surely will.
All right, I'll say goodbye and have a lovely afternoon.
Yeah, have a lovely evening. Yeah,
Evening,
it's
yeah.
already evening.
Me. I'll go to bed soon. All right, I'll catch you later, Vlada. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.